You've been here before, haven't you? The same argument, the same bad habit, the same situation. Maybe with a different person, but always the same ending. And the worst part? You saw it coming. You knew it was happening, even while it was happening. You literally watched yourself do it. Again.
Yeah, it's that awful feeling, like you're just a spectator in your own life. You're watching a movie you've already seen 100 times, and you know exactly how it ends, but you feel completely powerless to change the script.
So that's the real question, right? Why? Why can't you just stop? You're not dumb, you're not broken, but there's something that just keeps pulling you back into that same loop. Well, in this explainer, I'm going to show you exactly what that something is, and I promise you, once you see it, you will never be able to unsee it. So, let's just dive right in. The very first thing we need to get straight is that this is not a willpower problem. It has nothing to do with how much willpower you have.
This is the story we tell ourselves, isn't it? I just need more discipline. I've got to try harder. You swear you're done with toxic relationships, and then 6 months later you find yourself texting someone who is a carbon copy of the last person. You decide you're going to stop procrastinating, and then suddenly cleaning the entire apartment feels way more important than that project due tomorrow. Sound familiar?
What if I told you that willpower has almost nothing to do with any of this? The real reason you keep making the same mistakes isn't about how weak or strong you are, it's about your programming. It's about how your brain is wired.
And here's the craziest part, and it's so important to get this. Your brain isn't trying to sabotage you. It's actually trying to protect you. It thinks it's doing you a favor, keeping you safe. And that very act of protection is exactly what's keeping you stuck. Okay, so how does this programming actually work? Let's get into your brain's survival code. It all comes down to these things called neural pathways.
The best way to think about a neural pathway is like a trail in a forest. The very first time you walk it, it's hard work, right? It's overgrown, you have to think about every step. But if you walk that same path every single day, pretty soon it becomes a clear, easy-to-follow trail. You don't even think about it anymore. Now, that's amazing when the habit is something like brushing your teeth. But it's an absolute nightmare when that habit is self-sabotaging every time something good happens in your life.
Now, I really want you to lean in for this part, because this is the piece that most people miss. Your brain doesn't have labels for good habits or bad habits. It only has two labels, familiar and unfamiliar. And to your brain, which is basically a survival machine, familiar always equals safe.
Let that sink in. Your brain will choose what it knows, even if what it knows is painful, over the scary uncertainty of trying something new. So you see, you're not weak or self-destructive for getting stuck in that loop. You are literally just running an old, deeply embedded safety program. That's all it is. So where on earth did this program come from? Well, here's the simple and kind of shocking truth. Most of these core patterns, the ones that are really, really hard to shake, were formed before you were 10 years old. I'm not kidding. Before you even had the right words to make sense of the world, your little kid brain was like a sponge, just recording everything. It was trying to answer these huge, basic questions about life. And you didn't consciously choose the answers, they were just formed based on your early experiences.
And here's the kicker. You grew up, but the conclusions that your 8-year-old self made, they are still running the show. That's where you can be a competent, successful adult, but the second someone criticizes you at work, bam, you feel like a small child again. You're not going crazy, you're just running a very, very old script.
But here is the best news I can possibly give you. Scripts can be rewritten. So enough about the why. Let's switch gears and talk about the how. Here are 3 practical steps you can take to actually start breaking the pattern.
These are the 3 steps that really work. And this isn't about some kind of toxic positivity or just, thinking happy thoughts. These are real, actionable steps based on how your brain is actually wired.
Okay, step 1. The next time you feel yourself getting pulled into that old familiar loop, don't beat yourself up. Just pause and say, there's the pattern. The simple act of naming it without judging it creates this tiny little bit of space. You are not the pattern. You are the one who notices the pattern. And that small distinction changes everything.
All right, step 2. After you've noticed it, you gently ask yourself, when was the first time I felt this way? Now, this isn't about blaming anyone or digging up old drama. It's just about understanding where that trail in the forest first got started. Because once you see the origin, that huge, overwhelming feeling you're having right now, it starts to lose its power. It just becomes an echo of something old. And echoes, by their very nature, eventually fade.
And finally, step 3. This is where the real change happens. You choose one small, different action. I'm not talking about a massive personality change here, just one tiny thing. So maybe you usually shut down in an argument. This time, maybe you just say, I need a minute. That's it. Every single time you choose a new response, you weaken that old, overgrown path in the forest, and you start clearing a brand new one.
So, there you have it. You have the understanding and you have the tools. Now it's time to put it all together and turn this awareness into action.
I want you to remember this. You are not your patterns, and you are not doomed to repeat the past. But you cannot change what you refuse to see. The first and honestly the most powerful step in this whole process is just having the courage to finally look at it.
So I'm going to leave you with a question. Think of one pattern that just keeps showing up in your life. Now just ask yourself this. When did I first learn that this was how things worked? You don't have to fix it all today. You just have to be willing to see it. And the fact that you're even asking that question, that's not the start of the journey. That is the journey.